Welcome to MS Plug. Wow, that's a whole horrible start of this show already. So, welcome to MSP Unplugged, the fourth quarter living. I'm your host, Paco LeBron. This is our live show where we discuss different ways to run your IT business, whether it's managed services, consulting, break fix, or anything in between. Let me go ahead and introduce my co-host. We have none other than Rick Smith over at Renactus Technology. Rick, how are you today?
Doing good. Can't complain, Paco. Glad to be here again.
Good. I hear you. It's been I think from our conversation from earlier, it's been a interesting last couple hours for the both of us, let alone for some travels. There's no guest today, so we're going to have this opportunity to talk a little bit more about stories of the trenches, as we talked about in the title, fourth quarter living, and we'll go into a little bit about what that means as well. But before we kind of dive into all of that, I'd like to talk about my favorite thing is Techcon Unplugged. It is coming back next year in 2022. We have some exciting things coming up, a lot of things that our attendees have requested. We have a few surprises, and we'll have some special episodes to talk about, or actually one special episode to kind of wrap it all together on what's going on over here. So we've kind of been alluding that there's been some changes. There's some things going on over here on this end. So we'll be able to kind of reveal the curtain here shortly and explain kind of what's going on and what that means for you all, which is what we are hoping is going to be much better quality learning, education, networking with peers, and a lot of great vendors that you all like to see, and hopefully you will support along with them supporting you. So Techcon Unplugged, know that it's coming in fall of 2022, and we will be talking about that more shortly. All right. So as me and Rick were scrambling to figure out a title, because that's the theme of our show here with carrying the essence of Jeff Hallish. Basically, we decided to do a show on fourth quarter living. Now, this is a phrase that I have heard many times from a gentleman named Eric Thomas, E.T., who is also known as the hip hop preacher. And what he mentions the fourth quarter living is, how do you decide to finish out your year strong? Right. And we're already in the middle of November. We have about 6 weeks left, really trying to close out 2021 to get into a strong 2022. And fourth quarter living means just that. It's like in a game of basketball. You have the fourth quarter to really decide the outcome of what's happening, or try your best to do what you had set for your goals. Now, hopefully everyone has set their goals, and some type of SMART goals that we'll talk about a little bit for the year. However, as we all know, when we try to set goals for 2020, things kind of had a little bit of a hindrance, and we had a lot of difficulties to try and support and try and figure all those out. So hopefully me and Rick will just go ahead and talk shop here, talk about a little bit about what we're doing to kind of close out the year. What are some strategies, some ideas, and we're just going to break them out into a few things. So I think the first thing we'll probably talk a little bit about is my favorite thing is sales, and kind of figuring out how to improve sales and so forth. But in reality, everyone feels that sales is a dirty word. And I learned a couple years ago from a good mentor that sales is really just more of a nudge, right? It's kind of you just really just hinting and kind of strongly just kind of nudging them. It's not a push, it's a nudge to where you're trying to go. So for example, everyone loves a good restaurant, right? And everyone loves to be able to talk about that good restaurant, whether it's the great food, the ambiance, the staff, etc. And Rick, you're familiar with the restaurant and nightlife as well, and that experience for the customer. If you have a great experience, you want to tell people, and you want to be able to shout. Well, guess what? That's a form of selling. You're selling this place to a colleague, friends, even writing a review on these review sites like Yelp, Google, My Business, etc., Open Table, for others to know that, hey, this is a great opportunity to go for a quick meal. So sales isn't just this big over alluded thing. It starts really small, and it's something that took me a little bit to try and figure out. What about for you, Rick? What does sales mean to you?
Well, it's very similar to what you said, and it gives a lot of thought. And I take that, what the description you just gave is probably the second part of sales. And that's when you go to a restaurant, someone tells you, hey, this is a good restaurant. And, I hate to use keep using the restaurant analogy, but it makes sense. You go to a restaurant 9 times out of 10 because someone recommended it to you. Now that is where that type of selling is basically the restaurant sold you on it with their product, with the experience you had there, and now you are going out selling that restaurant to your friends, to your family, to whoever will listen. And that's when you feel compelled enough to give a review on Google or a review on Yelp. So I think for us, translating that back to what we do now, it is the experience we give the customer. When we refer to that part of it as, what we just described, we refer to it as referrals, right? Having our clients refer us out. But the whole process starts with, let me back that up. When you go meet a client, you meet a prospect, and you talk about your product, we always say you don't sell the item, you sell the benefits, right? You talk about what that product can do for your clients. Now, everything we do after is continually selling the client or getting the client to quote unquote buy in to what we're doing. And that way that client becomes our mouthpiece now to go out and sell or refer or give us a review on Google or, any of the other review sites we ask them to. So for us, if we don't, continuously strive for that excellence, strive to continuously give the client, what they expect and then exceed that expectation, it will hurt us. So that's probably part of the selling. I guess what I'm trying to say is selling does not stop or does not end once a client agrees to a contract.
And that's such a great segue to go into what I like to talk about is I feel that the fourth quarter is a huge opportunity for upsells. Right. I think that I saw a statistic, and it was a book that I read recently where, really 60% of your sales should come from your existing clients. And only 40% of your sales base should be from new business, whether that's referrals, whether that's your online marketing, how that's been attracting on there. But 60% of your client or your sales base should be an upsell. And there's different ways to do that, right? I think that depending on what your pricing is and how you structure it, there's a couple ways that you can do this. So, I'll take it all the way back to, let's say, from my part-time / small business part-time business days when I was doing computer repair shop. And what I would do is, unfortunately, since I had a full-time job, I didn't have a retail presence, right? So I couldn't upsell hardware like mice and keyboards, nor did I have the capital to hold that inventory. However, I was able to utilize a lot of managed services tools that others were using for small businesses and brought that down to the residential level. So I created a managed service for residential. And what that was basically, and I forgot what I used to call it, but it was just basically like a virus protection on crack. It was just basically like, hey, not only will we go ahead and provide you a managed antivirus that we're managing, we're scheduling, we're taking care of all the alerts, we're taking care of anything that happens to get infected, versus you buying, let's say, a normal AV, and you have to keep up with the updates, you have to keep up with the scans, you have to make sure, like if it blocks something, you have to figure out what's going on. And then we also did other things, like we updated their Google, their Adobe, things like that, and customers felt really good. And at the time, I think I was selling it annually for like $120 or something like that, because I made it super cheap so that they felt that, okay, it's a little bit more than what they would spend on an AV, but they would also get benefits knowing that there's someone monitoring. But obviously, we all know it was all automated. We had all the other tools that were available. And that's kind of what allowed me to do this quote unquote upsell. And then that kind of evolved with a lot of the other pricing, such as, once we started selling retainer blocks of hours, then we started doing managed services, then we started adding additional services, then we created 3 different plans which had different things, all different price points. So as you can kind of tell, that's kind of the evolution of where that goes. And if this is of interest of anybody, we can always have an episode to kind of go really in detail of how I managed all that. But that's, upselling. It doesn't have to necessarily be hardware. You can get very creative of what you have to offer or new things you're looking to offer and upsell to your current client base. Now, I know, Rick, we had went through some things where we were actually transitioning clients because of updates and things that we've done for selling. How were you able to sell your clients on that piece? and what was your kind of word track, or how did your mentality going into trying to get the most you can for the sales that you have for transitioning those clients to what you have now?
Well, one of the things is I've learned, or you do this business a long time. I've been in this business a long time, and it seems like every year, no matter what happens, I learn something that I could have been doing to enhance the experience my clients have had. One of the things I've learned this year, I'm putting a lot of focus on as we're talking about the fourth quarter, is actually taking the time to explain to clients what, having that conversation. Some of us have these QBRs at the end of the year conversations with our clients will just say, hey, your price is going up 5% and here's why. One of the things I'm starting to learn is that conversation with the client and letting them exactly know what you are doing, what you do for them. Because a lot of times clients get lulled into the belief that, hey, this guy comes in, I call him when something's wrong. He comes in, he fixes it, or he fixes it from his computer, and that's all he does. And that is nowhere near what we do, and it is nowhere near the level of service we offer a customer. So one of the things that I'm starting to do, which I've found I've found some success in, I'm actually talking, this sounds silly, but I'm actually talking to my clients. I am showing them on paper, and I am talking to them verbally about what it is we actually do on a day-to-day basis. What is it that I do as a managed service? I say I manage your network. You don't just call me when, something doesn't work, because clients fall into that false sense of if they're not calling you or they're not seeing you, you're not doing anything and everything is right, or everything is running just smoothly by itself. And, so for us, I'm out there now having that conversation. Hey, this is what we're doing. This is why, this is happening. Hey, you are protected, or you haven't had these issues because, hey, we've seen these. They come up in our RMM. We fix these problems sometimes before you even, you don't even know they exist, but this is what we do. We verify your backups, things like that. So, to make a short story long, just really, I'm having those conversations now. Clients are coming to appreciate, what exactly we do. And, they get a better understanding of what it is, because the truth is, if they don't see you, if they don't talk to you or hear from you, or nothing goes wrong, they think you're not doing anything, or they can get that sense of you're not doing anything.
So all great points. We actually are lucky. We are going to have the CEO over of Life Cycle Insights. She's going to be on next week. So I think this will be a great topic to talk to her about a little bit more on, QBRs and how to properly talk to your clients and not just say, hey, here are all the things that we've done for you, and now we want more money. That shouldn't be the conversation, right? Because it's going to be like, well, yeah, you should be doing those things because that's what we paid you for. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you doing to help advise us, right? And really understanding what it really means to be a virtual CIO. And I know everyone just threw up in their mouth, but the point is that how do you be that trusted advisor for your clients, and understanding that you are the source for them to discuss and not have to, have doubt in what you do and form committees and figure out what they're going to do internally. You should be the one source that will be able to discuss, and they should have that confidence in you. And not to say committees are bad, because, I think a lot of businesses now, with all the threats and everything that's going on right now in the world, it's actually, we should embrace those type of things, because it means that they're serious about their cybersecurity and their IT support. And if you're nervous about it, probably means you're not doing what you need to be doing. And that's something you got to evaluate. And this is a good time to do that as well. But steering, from there, let's talk a little bit more about, we've talked about sales and we used the restaurant analogy. Let's talk a little bit about marketing and kind of what you're doing, what I'm doing, and really some of the analogies of why marketing is so huge, right? And I think that a lot of people take marketing for granted because they believe marketing is going to be the end all be all to bring their clients. But you can bring as many clients as you can to you, but if you can't close the sale, it's not really dollars in your pocket, but marketing is such an important piece. I mean, I think the biggest piece, like we just talked about, is reviews and things like that. But marketing makes such a big piece. So for example, like, you know, there's a lot of social media that advertises restaurants, and like there's a lot of these review sites and bucket list sites. And like, you know, my fiance will go ahead and find a couple posts in this hashtag and, hey, here's the next thing we got to add onto our list to go to, because they had the visuals. They were able to highlight why this place was such a great thing to do. And that's really what we need to figure out, is how do we highlight ourselves in that light so that people want to be able to make that dial to you, that chat message to you, that send that fill out that contact form to reach out to you. But Rick, what are you doing right now for marketing as you endeavor into the end of 2021 to 2022 as you prepare?
Okay, well, not to divulge too much, but I'm actually on my way to Robin Robbins this evening for the 3-day intense training. Now, here's the situation, and I'll just say it this way. I've been so used to doing things my way for so long. But you get to this point where you get stagnant, might not be the right word, but no, stagnant is the right word. You get to this point where what you do or your ways of marketing, you need a refresher. You need some, you need to expand. And that's where I'm at now. I'm at this point. I ran this business for a long time by myself. And so every decision, everything that's done was done by me. And, we only have so many hours in the day, first and foremost. Sure. So it was you who, pushed me to go get some help, get an admin. Now I have admin, I have sales and marketing. So we are going now to learn marketing, right? Or get some tone up on marketing. And it's really just because, again, starting this business, you get clients, those clients refer you out. So I've been lucky. My business has grown mainly through, client A telling client B, and, they know somebody else, or I got a friend who knows a cousin, whatever. And that's how we've grown. But, it's time to go to the next level. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, again, we've heard different stories about this program, but I firmly believe this, and I've heard this from you, Paco, and then 3 or 4 other people as well. The programs, any marketing program most likely will work if you cater correctly, but you have to work the plan. You can't put it out, let it sit and expect it just to, you get a campaign, put it out and expect all these clients to flood in. So I had to really get myself around the mental, just get myself mentally prepared. And now I'm about to kick it in to a second gear to grow my business to the next level. So, for me, I'm going to do the marketing, learn, but I'm not going to be on the creative side of this anymore, I guess is what I'm saying.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I mean, I think you and I both attended her road show. Obviously you in Jersey, here in Chicago. And for me, I think that, I did not join the program, for disclaimer. But I think I walked out of there understanding some of the errors that I made when I was hiring my people. One of the things was where I hired my business development rep, believing that she could create a list, clean the list, and then go out and do appointment setting. And really, I gave her the job of 2 people, right? And I think there's a lot of that, where a lot of us have this expectation where we're going to hire the sales guy, and the sales guy is going to take care of everything, and not understanding there's different duties to the sales guy. Or I'm going to hire a marketing manager and really divulge in that. And so I happen to be lucky enough because my fiance is a marketing director. And so she helped me with some of the strategies, overview of what she could, because she's not in the industry, but allowed me to understand more of what were things that needed to be done just from things she's heard, and go from there. And some of our strategies have been where social media probably isn't the best place to really put all your eggs in one basket. Maybe LinkedIn, and I think, and I do have a heavy presence on LinkedIn, but other avenues of like, what are you doing for referrals? What are you doing for referral programs? What are you doing for a lot of these other things? So what I've done is, with that piece and the content that I had created with Tech Marketing Engine, which is our friend over at Matt Rodella and Ramey Bell, is establishing and recreating those funnels, right? And now that, where we've put that pause and understand it, how do we automate that piece, right? So, relooking at Tech Reputation and making sure that with Tech Marketing Engine have those review sites being updated, because I still truly believe that reviews are a great source for you to get not only attention, SEO, branding, but it also gives the word out and allows you to really focus on getting, really understanding how to go ahead and piece through, and understand that with automation, it frees you up, and delegation is our number one huge issue that we have. But then you come to the guys that are the one-man bands, one person bands, as you said, whether it's a woman or a man that's starting their business and really trying to figure out how can they make their dollars the most sense, right? And I think we've all been there. But I've always been to the point where I've always said there's a difference between being frugal and there's a difference between being cheap. You want to be frugal, but you don't want to be cheap. You don't want to get free solutions and make money off of them when they're not intended for that. So, get a business class email system, be able to run through a platform, but, utilizing something like MailChimp, which gives you the opportunity for, I think it's like 2,000 subscribers, and utilizing their avenues. That's great, because that's what this platform was built for, you to grow with them. But don't try and hack the system and then wonder why you're not making what you should be making because it's not coming to you at the right price. So, with that being said, like you said, Rick, you're focusing on that marketing program, and, I have never heard that her program does not work. I've heard that, it is an investment, definitely for sure, because it attacks all that. But I have not heard that her system doesn't work, at least from people that I've talked to. But there's different ways to do things, and there's different flavors and there's different ways to go from there. Like for me, I walked out of that understanding on what I needed to do. Get my stuff together, get my stuff tight, figure it out. So speaking with my office manager, or my head of office operations, so we're having, and she's also our controller, so having weekly meetings with her to understand where we are in details and finances, understanding that I need a marketing admin to get a list going and clean it up because I don't have the time for it. And then understanding how to split out the workforce, because our level 1 team is kind of getting a little bogged down, and figuring out that piece, because we're getting, we're in a good place right now where we're getting good clients that are believing in the mission. And that's all coming through from review sites like Clutch and UpCity. And those have been the two main sources for me, because one of the pieces I was running into was, being that I was a computer repair shop before, and I stopped doing computer repair in July of 2019, where I cut off all residential support and all break fix and computer repair shop work. People were still finding me on Google and contacting me for computer repair. And this was something that I kept battling, and it just was a huge issue. Now it died down once we kind of removed a lot of that and updated some of the things there. But it caused a lot of problems where people would come in and they were mad that I wasn't there. And then they left us 1-star review because, perfect example. I had a review during the pandemic, and they came in. We said, we don't do the work, we can refer you to a computer shop that's nearby. Left me a 1-star review because she didn't want to walk to that other shop. And you would think during this time and age what did they say, during this time of age, they must not want to make money. So, it was just interesting on that perspective of, well, they must not be hurting / well, I guess my money's not good here, which obviously wasn't the case. We just don't do that service. So trying to communicate all that. So, constant going over, constant talking. And I just couldn't figure it out. I tried getting more updates from businesses, from reviews, and nothing was working. So I talked to a colleague of mine who is a bigger MSP in the area. And she told me, she's like, look, you need to be on Clutch. You need to be on UpCity. That's where you get the managed service clients. That's where you go ahead and get that the Google juice and getting all that type of stuff. So I always thought Clutch.co was a software-based review system, and it turns out that it really is for service providers as well. So ended up going on there, joined the system. Like 6 months later, a majority of our leads online are coming from Clutch or Upsity. And so it's been a great experience to just, knowing the right people and having those conversations, which is why it's imperative to meet with like-minded business owners, because you can understand where you are in your level, and that discussion helps spawn new ideas. But don't be afraid to stay where you are as well. If you want to grow, but you just don't know where, talk to someone who you feel like are in a good position and see if there's any ideas that resonate with you. And then in the same level, if you're comfortable and you want to kind of stay where you're at and make a good living, see how you can be more efficient to get more time to yourself and get that going so you can make that livable wage. But yeah, that's my long-winded response for marketing. And a couple shout outs to vendors there we'll have in the list. I know that Tech Marketing Engine is going to have some type of I don't know if I should be revealing this or not, so Matt can kill me later. I know that they are going to be coming out with something for Black Friday, which I believe Thanksgiving is next week already, right?
Yep, next Friday. Next Friday.
So be on the lookout for that. I think that there will be something that we'll be mentioning on next week's show. If I have not gotten it already, I will double check just to make sure he didn't message me. He has not. So more to come for that, for marketing and go from there. Is there any marketing pitfalls, Rick, that you may have fell in the previous years, or just what made you kind of just, hey, look, I gotta get better at marketing?
Well, here's the thing for me. I brought in someone for sales and realized, okay, you can have sales. Hey, here's a list. Go sell to the list. And I think it goes back to, again, what you said earlier. You have to make the investment in the business, right? So whether it's through finding leads or paying someone, to market for you, or Google ads, whatever you do, you have to invest into your marketing or invest into your business to get more from it. So for me, I'm not going to say this was something I tried and it failed. It's what I didn't do, right? I didn't make an investment to grow the business from a marketing perspective, right? We try all these tools all the time. Hey, this tool will save me 22 seconds off of my week or whatever. Or this has the new hot whatever, and we'll do that. But, one of the things we have to do, it goes back to, we have to invest back into the business. Now, some people, again, it goes back to knowing who you are, knowing your limits, knowing, and also knowing what you will and will not do, right? I am not, from the perspective of marketing, the creative type, right? I'm not that guy who, I know what I want, but not necessarily may have trouble communicating. So I have to go out, find those who do it. And that's why we have all of these different, specialties that people have, right? Because they fit a niche that if you're a small business and you one or two people, you a single person or a 20-person shop, there's going to be something you're going to end up hiring out for if you're smart, realizing what you don't know or what you may need help with. And that's the pitfall for me, is it took me a long time to get to that point to see it. So now I see it. I'm making the investment. Of course, I'm going to this event with my sales and marketing person, right? But this is her. This is for her. I'm going as the owner of the company just to have a sense of what's going on. Because I do believe, we can't do everything ourselves, but I do believe I should understand at least some bases of this, right? But this is going to, and I told her when we did this is your baby. You're going to manage it. You're going to run it. I'm going to be around to, hey, cut the purse strings if we're not making the right decisions or we're not doing the right things. But, I'm here now. This is me supporting my business by supporting my people.
Sure.
So, I guess if to sum up your question about a pitfall, is just, don't be afraid to take some of what you've made, put it back in your business, because that's where you're going to grow.
Sure. No, so it's funny, right? Or ironic that you say that, because we'll shift gears to ops and operations for the business, because you said a specific thing where it's like you're investing in your people, right? And understanding how to figure out from there. So, and I understand there's some of us that are one-man bands and or one-person bands, I should say, and trying to figure out how to automate and how to figure it out too. But I'm also running into the same problem you ran into, where how do I invest in my people? How do I grow and think in that business owner mindset? So I actually, from a conversation when I was out in Vegas for the Channel Futures conference, met another MSP over named Luis Geraldo, sorry. And he is the CEO of OOK, OOK. It's an MSP out of Vancouver. And he was telling me, he's an 8-person shop, and he was telling me how, running personality tests on your team work really well. So for those that don't know, if those were when you were in corporate America, there was these personality tests that they would call DISC, DISC, or it would be, I forgot what the other call was, a PI, I think was the other one. But basically it was the one where it would tell you, what's your color? Are you a yellow and blue? Are you a red and green, or whatever the 4 colors were? So I thought that would be a great opportunity to bring that to my business. The only problem is that test is super expensive, and you have to really understand it in order to kind of apply that. So what he told me about a company called Working Genius. And so I went ahead and bought a couple licenses, and it has the same type of assessments, but it has 6 type of wonders, is what it's called, geniuses. And it kind of explains to you that, there's 6 of these genius type of personalities. You're good at 2, you're okay at 2, and you are frustrated by 2. And this will allow you to kind of figure out how to communicate to your team members. And also it is allowing me to understand where to put people, because, my level 1 guy may really be a level 2 / may not want to do level 1 stuff anymore. And maybe he wants to be the cloud architect and handle all the cloud stuff of OneDrive, SharePoint, etc. I got another guy who wants to really handle more server stuff, but we don't have servers. But really what he likes to do is GPO, Active Directory stuff, settings. So maybe it might be an opportunity for Microsoft Endpoint Manager. So it's a lot of that that allowed me to really figure out on that section and really piecing together on what does my business need and how do I grow and scale, whether that's people or through revenue. As we talked about earlier, I did a transition of allowing me to go ahead and move forward to understand how do I push to my revenue numbers and section from there. So I've been on the massive push on making sure all my clients are a monthly client. And there's still some resonance to that. But, the first set was get rid of all my residential clients, which I did. And I handed it off to a colleague of mine. I think everyone knows Andres Quiros over at Green Ink. So he's a resident, close friend of mine. So he ended up taking all my residential clients, and we worked out an agreement that worked best for both of us. Then from there, I moved all my retainer clients, meaning these are clients that pre-purchased hours and maybe had like a monthly fee of like the AV and stuff like that, and Microsoft 365 licenses. So I ended up moving all of those out with another MSP and worked out an agreement for them. And it was one of those where they either had to convert to a monthly agreement, or if they decided not to convert to a monthly agreement, then we had to go both ways. And the reason how I got to this point is there's just so much crap happening out there in the world right now. And especially 4th of July breach really made us pucker to the point where it's just, we just don't want that liability. And our insurance providers even said it, like, look, your rates are tripling. This is what's going on. You need to figure out what you want to do. So in order for it to be sustainable for me, this is the route that I had to do my best efforts. And if they didn't want to do my best efforts, you're not the client for me. Now, granted, that is a huge risk for those that, you got to take what you can to feed yourself, right? And you got to make money. So I'm not here to say that, there is no emergencies or there is no, things like that. What I will say is that if you need to survive, you have to do what you have to do. But if you get to the point where you're tired and time is more important to you, or your livelihood is a little bit more, your mental state is a little bit more important to you, this is where you would start to think about that. Or at the absolute best, you're doing well and you have the chance to kind of carve out some of the clients that are taking up most of your time and things of that nature. So going through that process, we're probably at the tail end with like 4 or 5 accounts right now with the retainer basis. The next part now is which retainer clients are creating us the most work. for the least amount of money. So that's what I did yesterday. Was I actually created this whole huge list. How much are they making? And I actually sectioned them off. Who are my top clients, meaning they're paying me the most and have benefit and value? Who are my strategic accounts, where like maybe they have other locations, maybe they have the ability to do things for me, etc. Who are my mid-level clients, where like they're paying us a good amount of money, they haven't really bothered us as much, things like that. And then some of the lower end. And then I went ahead and pulled up the case comment and our report in Synchro to determine who is taking up most of our time in tickets and time. And come to find out, 2 of our higher paying clients are taking up 80% of our time. So what we've determined is that, you know, as we start to onboard a couple other clients, which we're actually okay now to do so, but we're waiting for some others to close. So once we clear that and there, we're probably going to fire two of our bigger paying clients to save us 80% of our time, so that we can do what we need to do for our other clients. And that's really where this all kind of comes to make sure that they're profitable, because if they're killing your burden rate, which is what is a rate that is the amount you're paying for, that is really what you want to figure out on how do you best live your day. And you're probably going to be a lot less stressed too, because those are probably the clients that are wanting to schedule 7 meetings per week. And why is certain things happening? And they're emailing you directly and not the team email and for everyone to see and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the past, for ops, and growing at that piece as well.
Yeah. And I'm going to feed off of that. And one of the things I've learned is, you know, going with in the same perspective we were just talking about, is your best client, or what you think is your best client, is not the guy who pays you the most money. Right. Our goal in this, and my goal in this is I want to be able to service clients, create a situation from where we keep them safe. You know, we keep things updated. You know, the quote unquote bottom line things we want to do: keep them safe. You know, keep their Microsoft, their Windows, whatever, updated, keep everything going. But you also have clients who you come into a situation at different levels, right? You have some clients who are starting, their back end is a mess, right? They're using a piece of crap router, or a piece of crap switch, or a piece of crap server, outside of your standard. Yep. Right. Something is, it's not right? So you're spending more time trying to get them, up to quote unquote par, or what you consider par. Now if that client may cause you a lot of hassle in the beginning, but if they're willing, if you've talked to them, explained to them, done your best, and they're willing to take the steps with you to get themselves to, to the right level where they don't have the problems they have anymore, it's smoother transition for them, less headaches for them, less headaches for you. That's a good client. They're willing to invest in their business. A lot of times I've noticed people take their technology for granted. So, it won't happen to me. I don't need this. I don't need that. Everything runs fine. And if they're not willing to invest in their business for their reasons, either one of two things: they're just cheap and you don't need them, or you haven't done a good job in explaining to them what the consequences are for not doing this, right? So either way, that's not a good fit. That is who I am breaking down to move out of my box, right? And that could be a client that's paying me on the top 10% of what I earn in monthly revenue, or on the bottom 10%. Usually they're down towards the bottom. But my thought about that is we have to define, what is right for us, what is ideal for us. And I will work with a client who will work with me. So if we're doing a QBR, or we're talking about something that say, hey, you need a new server, you need a new switch, you need a new this. And I can give them a list and I say, okay, you say, how much is all that? I say, $20,000. I'm just throwing out a number, or $10,000. They say, hey, I can't do all that at one time. I will do it. Can we do it in stages? You can work with that client, because now you know that client is willing, or it understands and is willing to get themselves to a point where they can, make it right. As opposed to a client who wants to tell you,
they'll spend $500 for an annual year of IT support. Well, like, okay, how do you want to spread out 2 hours for the year?
I run into this the most is that my doctors are the most tech savvy guys in the world. They don't need this. They don't need that. I said, you spent all this time in medical school. I didn't know you were a technician as well. And I use that example, but a lot of times they'll tell you what they don't need, even though you've told them 20 times this is what happened. So, not to pick on doctors, but any time you have a client like that, and I'm going to say this as someone who did not practice what I'm about to preach right now, but don't stay with them, because all they end up doing for you is, is driving your business down, taking up all of your time that you could be devoted to those clients who are willing to take the right steps, right? Who are willing to be, quote unquote, worth your time. Because in the end, the clients who don't do it are going to cause you the most headache, because if they get a breach or, something goes down and you told them 100 times what to do, you're going to spend, an inordinate amount of time trying to fix a problem that should not have happened.
Yeah.
So, for a lot of us, we see, and to wrap it up, for a lot of us, we know the writing's on the wall with certain people, with certain clients.
Right.
And just, get rid of the headache. And I'm saying that from experience, from saying, I can say to you now, get rid of the headache, because I've had plenty of headaches. So, I'll just say it that way. So that I'm sorry to cut you off. Go.
No, you're good.
No, I was just saying, that is one of the biggest things I focused on this year. And as I'm coming to the end of the year now, I'm getting bolder and bolder with saying, hey, you're not a right fit for me. And yes, this is going to take a hit to revenue, but it's also going to be an increase in my productivity, because I'm not worried about something and spending time on something that should be fixed, that could have been easily fixed. I'll leave it there.
Sure. No, I mean, client buy-in is so important. And I think that the fact of having to understand that, and everyone listening here, who the clients you need to fire. Like, who are the clients that are taking up more of your time. They're not going to your best standards. You are telling them what you need them to do, and they are doing the opposite, or they're consulting other people that are not the advisors that have been hired. The biggest piece to know who that client is to fire is if their name, and I'm stealing this from Michael Michalowicz, is if their name shows up on your caller ID, do you get the, oh, nice, it's so-and-so, or it's, I'm not grabbing that phone call, or I'll let them go to voicemail. If you have that that feeling, and it's not just like because you're not feeling it that day, if that's a constant thing, they need to go, because they're not a fit for you. That's the issue. Like, everyone has to understand that all money, like you just said, all business is not good business. Even if the money is great, it's that they're not a fit for you.
Right.
They may be a fit for someone else, and let them take them. That can go ahead and go from there. But I think that's the biggest piece that a lot of people don't understand, is that you have to get to the point where you're not mentally exhausted by your clients. And, I had one a couple years ago where I dreaded his name calling me at 9:30 in the morning, because it was just myself. They kept stacking projects, atomic projects. They went from 4 people to 12. I wasn't capable and didn't have the standardization in place to kind of scale with them. So I ended up firing them. And I basically told them, look, and they were a big chunk of my business at the time. And it was just that I'd rather have the good frame of mind and not worry about them than have to fail them and be exhausted, and then they fire me anyways. And it was a bad situation altogether. Now, my timing was really rough, because my biggest client ended up going with another firm, because they were just scaling completely out of normal, and they consolidated operations. So I lost my 2 biggest clients that year, which was pretty rough. But that is just to say something where now you have the ability to, regain that business, get more of your peace of mind, and it allows you to kind of go from there.
I just want to add one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I said this in the beginning, having those conversations, do yourself a favor. I'd say that, and I'm only speaking from experience. Have the conversations with clients. Don't assume, hey, he's too cheap, he's not going to do it, or
right,
he's not going to get it. Have the conversation, give them the opportunity, because I will say this, I've had some surprises in this quarter. Having some conversations, and we've talked about this. I've had some conversations with clients, and I say, You need such things, and this is going to change. This has to change. And in my mind, I'm going into this conversation saying they're not going to agree to this. So
like, there's no way.
Right. They're not going to agree to this. So I'm going to lose them. And I'm prepared for that because I have to do it this way now. And, to my surprise, some of them have understood and agreed and said, okay, let's do it. Now, it's been a little reluctance, but they're doing it. And that's that other level of trust part. But we have to have the conversation. Some of them suck and they're difficult conversations to have, or we just, don't want to have it. But let's not assume that because a client hasn't done it, doesn't mean that he won't do it, particularly if we never had the conversation and we just, assume that they wouldn't.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. Can't agree more. I think that understanding to have not only that conversation, but the confidence in having that conversation as well. Right. But kind of going into what you just said, we got a question from our good friend, Mike Wise, is thoughts about raising rates for 2022. We have not gone into it. And the curious question is, what are your thoughts on raising rates for 2022? Are you doing it? Are you not doing it? Is this part of your transition plan as you kind of move forward? What are you doing for your rates for 2022?
Well, for me, I'm revamping things. So that comes with an increase for some people. It comes with the conversation of, hey, we've been doing things this way. We're going to make some transitions. We're making some changes, which is going to cost you a little more or whatever. So I'm not saying I'm going to raise prices across the board. My hourly rate has increased, will increase. Everyone knows, like, I've made that known to everyone. And this is just for things like projects and things that are not going to be covered under any kind of plan. But the increase comes, I guess, in the approach to what we're doing now and how I'm going about my MSP programs that I'm offering to my clients now. So some of them will see an increase, some of them will see a significant increase, and some of them will see a moderate increase. And that just really depends on where you've been. But what I'm doing and what I'm sticking to is having a baseline standard. And I'm not going to allow to protect myself, to protect my business. And, this helps the client as well, whether they, want to see it that way or not. There has to be certain things you cannot not do. And, for some of us, sometimes because we don't want to lose a client, and I've been there, you will make sacrifices that later will come back and bite you in the tush.
Right. No, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, we did a similar thing. I mean, we actually raised rates in October because we were going into fourth quarter. Excuse me. And what we basically decided was, and how we did the raising of rates is we had a new rate pricing schema that we came out with our new plans. And what we did was we converted all of our invoices to show the new pricing. But then there was a line item that basically said legacy discount, and it minus whatever or subtracted whatever was that rate. And basically there was an email that was sent out that said, hey, you are on our previous pricing. We are month to month. We will be increasing this in 60 days, just FYI, 30 days again. And then finally, we just removed the discount line and without any response. And so that allowed for two things. One, for those to see that there was a legacy discount in those previous emails up until that point. And two, it allowed us to show everyone what our new rates were for the coming up, quote unquote, increase. So we actually started doing that. What I will say is that you should probably always evaluate your rates every quarter. And what I mean by that is looking at your rates for not only of what you're charging, but what are you including in those services as well, and figure out what tools that you're using to try and consolidate or see if they have any additional items that maybe take over another tool. Because the more you can consolidate and get into one dashboard, in my opinion, is the best. We're doing that right now. We're actually flipping all of our stuff over to Acronis, minus a couple pieces of what they have just because of contracts we're into. But that's the goal. And we're trying them out. It seems to be working well. We're doing everything properly from there. And it's one dashboard, and it's clean, and my team loves it. They're able to navigate. So that's really what helps for efficiency, productivity, and security as well. So some of the things that we're doing on here, and then how does that reflect of our rates and things of that nature. So what I'll say for those listening in and answering Mike's question is, if you haven't raised your rates in quite some time, take a look at it. Probably is the year to do so. I think a lot of people understand that technology and IT support and cybersecurity is in the forefront. It's making it into mass media, so people know about it. And plus, if you're getting insurance, your insurance providers are probably increasing your cost, and you got to pay it somehow. You shouldn't be eating that, trying to go through there. So those are my tidbits on that piece from there. Rick, anything you want to?
I'm saying, and if your clients have cyber insurance, there are going to be some things that we talked about this a little at the show in September, but there are going to be certain things that the client at having cybersecurity, they're going to be required to have that they have to pay attention to as well. So it helps with that conversation. But I'm just going to say again, this is and these are things I've learned and I'm learning, and by no means an expert in, but starting to really put into practice now is having that baseline of this is a bare minimum, and if you can't go below this, or you can't be a client of ours. There's so many times we talk to vendors and they say, hey, there's a $250 minimum spend or $500 minimum spend or whatever it is, and they're not going to make the some of them will, but for the most part, they're not going to make the exception for you to do that, right? And for us, there's a minimum standard that we should all. And I'm not going to say what your standard should be. I've learned what mine is, right? And I'm not here to preach to anyone what there should be. But I've come up with what mine is, and that creates a minimum price base, basically, for a client. And, some of them are going to go with it. Some of them are not. But at the end of the night, again, speaking, I want to sleep better. Right. And I want to know that I've done the right thing, because every time you cut a corner, it's in the back of your head. It's bothering you. It's nagging at you that, hey, this could happen. We already know there's inherent risk and we can't protect the client from everything, and things are going to happen. But how are we prepared for that? And this goes back to my minimal standards, is more so being prepared to get you back up and running as quickly and as soon as possible and I hate to say it, but when disaster strikes.
Right. No, all good points. So we're at the top of the hour, Rick. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or bring up that you're doing for the next 6 weeks and kind of preparing yourself for 2022?
Well, I'm still evaluating. I know what I want. This time now. I'll just say it this way. This time now is a good time to evaluate what you quote unquote have in your stack and where you're going. I know you say you're just making the change now to move it to a Cronus. It's a good time now. I've, been to a couple of different shows. So, every time you go to a show, you meet a vendor or you meet, thousands of vendors. So everyone's calling you.
Yeah.
You get a lot of phone calls, and I know we don't have a lot of time for it, but if there are things that you feel that are not adequate or you want to improve upon, try to make the time to talk to those guys and, evaluate and see if that fits for you. And I'm going to focus on that. I've been focused on that this whole fourth quarter. That's been my goal, so that I can have something solid, closer to the end of the year, put that together and be set with it. So I guess that's just for me. When we talk about our fourth quarter living, mine has been a lot of reviews with vendors about products, and I've made some changes. And for the most part, I'm happy with them. We will see as time progresses, but I'll just suggest, if you have the time now, or actually make the time now, if you have some inadequacies, or things that you're just not comfortable with right now, to see if there's something out there for you that can work better.
I couldn't say it any better than myself. You got to do what you got to do with your own means, at your own pace, But remember, you just got to do that 1%, as John Dubinsky likes to say. Just do that one thing, and you're a lot further than where you were before.
Exactly.
So appreciate everybody coming out. Rick, if anyone wanted to know and catch up with what your shenanigans and endeavors are doing, how can they go ahead and keep up with you?
Okay, well, I got a couple of ways. You can reach me at rick@renactus.com. That's for anybody who has any questions, concerned about on the business side. As far as MSP Unplugged goes, we've announced several times now that I've moved into a role here. So again, when it comes to that, our goal here is to make the community better, to make what we offer to the community, a lot better, something that fits for everyone. So if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, if you want to tell me we suck, whatever you need, just send me an email at info@MSP Unplugged or rick@mspunplugged.com.
Awesome. Yeah. And as Rick mentioned, he is a moderator in the Facebook group as well in our online community. So we appreciate all the support you do. And as we mentioned, we'll reveal more on a lot of those details and such in a future episode. Well, appreciate everyone. Come join us every Tuesday at noon Eastern, 11 Central. Watch live and hang out in the chat room over at youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Subscribe and hit the notification button so you never miss an episode. You can also use your favorite podcasting app to take us wherever you go. We are on Amazon Music, Spotify, and on the traditional Apple Podcast. And once again, we thank you for listening, and we will see you next time at MSP Unplugged. Getting an error that it won't let me end the broadcast. It's not letting me do it. You see if you can do it on your end?
So, yeah, I'll try it here.
This is what you get for the bloopers reel, people.
The unedited version.
Yep.
I can't do it either.
That's
Maybe they want to stay on. Oh, wow. So he left me on by myself.